Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Quakecon 2019, where we're well underway with our speedrunning marathon. Up next, it's going to be Doom 3. It's going to be run by BloodThunder, and it's one of the more, I guess, like obscure Doom titles. A lot of people have knowledge of the game back on the PC, but it's significantly different when you're factoring in, but essentially playing it as a speed game. I'm joined by a couple of different chaps on the couch now. Zelo, who just came fresh off Doom 64, and the debut, Mr. Bite Me. How's it going, dude?
Man, it's going great.
We'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you a bit later, playing some Doom 2016, and that's going to be, I think, the long one of the day, right? So you're going to get a little bit of an opportunity to sit on the couch and get a little bit limbered up, ready to go. But how does it feel to be at Quakecon, man? We haven't seen you today.
Man, it's great. This is my first Quakecon ever, and I've got to say that it's one hell of an experience. It definitely will not be my last.
Pun intended on that, right?
Of course.
So while we're here, it's a perfect opportunity to, Doom 3, what is it? It was a Doom title that really went in a horror direction. You know, this was away from the, I guess, arena days you would see from the previous games, where not only were classic Dooms played in the speedrunning sense, they were played in multiplayer as well. And it was, that was one of the first games that really dawned that one versus one culture, which people would play online, or just deathmatch in general. But with Doom 3, it very much went into a different direction entirely. This is a very, very dark game. There are a lot of horror elements. We're not going to be seeing them in the speedrun, I don't think, but there's a lot of collectibles you can pick up that give you the lore on what happened to the scientists and what happened to Mars and just how bad things got out of hand. But when it comes to Doom 3, guys, what are your personal experiences? Where did your journey with Doom 3 come from?
So it's actually been 15 years since it started when Doom 3 was released, and I was a teenager at the time. My dad had got it, so I get to play it on weekends when I was with him. And I remember the game feeling a little slower than the early PC games, but watching it as a run now, it's amazing how fast that run actually is.
It's because I think you can run underratedly fast, because it mostly comes down to essentially like a bunny hopping strat, right? Where the big thing that always interested me about Doom 3 was how there are certain elements where moving fast sometimes isn't always optimal, because an underrated thing about Doom 3 is full damage. Every time you're playing a game like this, you either want to strafe jump or you want to bunny hop. General air movement is the key to moving quickly. But in Doom 3, there are certain ledges where even if it's not that high up, you take a lot more damage than you're comfortable taking. And in a speedrunning sense, that little bit of extra damage can be the difference between surviving a level and dying and having to do the whole thing again.
Yeah.
Oh, they added some other mechanics too to Doom 3, like the stamina bar. So you have to manage your running. You can't just run full time all the time, even on an easy difficulty. Otherwise, you're going to run out. So you have to kind of route out where you're going to run, where you're going to walk, be able to recover.
But I've just been told it's a good opportunity to have a quick chat about BloodThunder, who's going to be our runner today for Doom 3. You've been seeing him on the couch providing commentary, and he's been riding the marathon all day. Shout out to him for putting up with that effort so far. But now is finally his time to show us what he brings to the table when it comes to actual gameplay itself. Doom 3 is definitely one of those games that you need to have a lot of knowledge for, because it's just one of the longer games. Not to say that the previous games don't require that knowledge, but Doom 3 can be a bit of a marathon, man. And his run, the estimated time, 1 hour 15. And he is going to be running the any percent glitchless, which is a little bit more, playing somewhat by the game's rules. Noticing in his player background here, completed all Doom games back to back, one sitting. I'm pretty sure that video is on YouTube for anyone that wants to watch it. Has been remarked on previously, where he has gone through the entire catalog.
I have to say, it's quite impressive, his knowledge of the series. I've joined in and I've watched him run this before, and the fact that he can memorize each individual game and execute it is just impressive in and of itself.
It's because for most people, learning just one game to speedrun is quite a daunting task to begin with, and then you factor in there are people like BloodThunder in attendance that are able to essentially play multiple games. It's quite a feat in itself, because the amount of knowledge and skill that is required to play one game at a decent level too, especially when Doom is quite a heavily contested game across all the different games. There's multiple people running all the games at any given moment. Getting a run is impressive.
I think it really helps that he's no stranger to FPS games at all, and the more you've played and done runs of them, it's easier to get knowledge for the next few games that you do, and that just keeps going and going until it's kind of systematic. So it's second nature to him to be able to pick up a run and learn it, and you have a good time within like maybe a month.
Okay, I believe BloodThunder is ready to have a little bit of a chat too. Can you hear me, bro?
Yeah.
All right, nice. So while you're getting loaded up now, before you start your run, give us a brief introduction to yourself and just Doom 3 in general. What is Doom 3 to you?
So Doom 3 is just really kind of stuck in the middle between the classic Dooms and the newer Dooms, Doom 2016 and Eternal. It takes the horror elements of Doom 64 and expands upon it, puts you in very tight corridors, dark sections, there's lots of monsters in your face that are meant to kind of slow you down and scare you. But we don't do any of that in the run, as you'll find out, as these guys were talking about. You can go quite fast in this, although it is probably the longest any percent run in Doom now. And a little correction, it's not the glitchless category. I don't know if that was...
it was on the, sorry, apology, it was on the graphics.
Yeah, I just want to make sure people at home don't freak out when I start doing some stuff. But are we all set to go?
Okay, well, if you're ready to actually start the run, mate, then count us in when you're ready and we'll kickstart some Doom 3.
All right, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So, we're playing Doom 3. We're playing the BFG edition of Doom 3, but we're running it through a source port, so we kind of get the best of both worlds, the original and the BFG edition, which means we can skip cutscenes besides this one and one other. We also get faster stamina, and there's a whole bunch of other smaller details that we just combine together. So once we get past this, which is just about over, talking about the UAC and setting up the story, so there's a little bit of a story in this game. We'll be going pretty quick here. So we can skip this cutscene, and then we're off. So, as you may notice, we're not really staying on the ground too much. There is strafe jumping and circle jumping in this game, which is, if you're at Quakecon, that's something you're probably familiar with. It's very common across games of this era. So once we get through this, we can run just a little bit more. Unfortunately for Doom 3, as opposed to the other ones, there's kind of moments where we're stuck waiting on something to happen. But besides that, when we're left to our own devices, we're going to be jumping quite a bit. So we're going to go through this, skip another cutscene, and close out the PDA, which is kind of where all your lore goes. It's not always fast to jump around, whether it's a very tight corner or if you're going to run into something. It's better to just take it slow and walk, like walking upstairs there. But anytime you can jump, you're pretty much going to see it happen. And in the bottom left corner, you'll see a yellow bar, which is our stamina. And the whole time, we're going to be kind of watching that so that we don't get to an end of a level and run out of stamina. So we kind of just maintain it the whole way. Now we just have to run back to where we started. And then that's level 1 over. So that's kind of what a lot of the maps are going to look like. We just bunny hop through them. There are some other strats we're going to get into, like rocket jumping and grenade jumping. But first, we're going to need some weapons, because all we have right now is our fist, and that's not good enough. I'm just going to jump up here, get some armor shards.
I need you to grab some armor and secure your pistol before I can pass you through security.
This guy's going to give us what we need to do.
Okay, grab your gear.
I think this is one of the parts of the game that a lot of people will sort of be generally familiar with. You know, when you're first getting your first few weapons, the guy takes ages to let you in. But he finally does it, and then when you find him later, it's like, that's what you get.
Excellent. Good to see.
Yeah, so we're just waiting for him to kind of open the door for us. And if I can actually get the game audio up a little bit, that wouldn't be too bad at all. But, he should be opening it any second now. We're going to do a big jump. So they were talking about fall damage before, and that's something you have to keep in mind throughout the entire run. So we're just going to try to hit this rail so we take less fall damage. You will survive even if you don't hit it, but it's better just be safe. And we can quick save in this. So when there's moments where I think we may run into problems, whether it's with taking too much damage or the game, sometimes the Doom 3 will just kill you, like that. So
Not ready for that.
We don't only kill demons in this, we also kill a lot of fellow soldiers, and it's for a good cause. But we'll wait until the lore happens for that.
I'm pretty sure the voice in the beginning told you to be careful with that thing.
Yeah, I don't listen too well to rules. Yeah, there's also a lot of elevators that we have to take up or down.
This is where literally all hell breaks loose, and the portal to hell just spawns in everything, and the base isn't going to look anywhere near as clean as it was before.
It was a really engaging cinematic experience the first time through, watching everything literally go to hell in the base.
Yeah, so now we're just waiting for kind of this cutscene where he was supposed to talk to us to happen with the... We kind of figure out about the demonic invasion happening and people freaking out, like, oh, what's going on? And he would normally turn into one of the infected like this. So that's what we take him about before. But now we're just going to run back, take the elevator back down.
All right, so sorry to interrupt you.
Yep.
I think we've all probably listened. There's a bit of an audio issue going on right now, and there's some crackly audio. So we're going to take just a little bit of time out, and we're going to make sure we fix that for you. This is a little bit of a lengthy run, so we want to make sure that we're ready and that BloodThunder's in an optimal position. So what we've seen so far is essentially, Doom 3 is, I think, underratedly fast. A lot of people probably that played it casually don't realize just how fast you can make yourself go. Even if the movement's not crazy complicated, it's still, if you've played anything like Quake, you're familiar with getting that circle jump for immediate speed, body hopping to maintain it. That's something that's also not only prominent in the single player for Doom 3, but the multiplayer too. There was a period competitively with Doom 3 where, if memory serves me correctly, and from what I've been told, it was while players were essentially waiting for Quake 4 to come out. There was a scene that would come and they would play at some Quakecon. You can still go on YouTube right now and find some of the old Quakecon VODs. Players like Gopher, for example. Shouts to Gopher, who essentially the 1v1 culture of Doom 3 was very heavily like it could be hide and seek sometimes. And what really interested me about Doom 3 multiplayer was essentially that the maps were quite small and compact, kind of similar to Doom 2016's multiplayer, in fact, but there was a lot of ways you could kind of hide around corners. There were lots of like preemptive grenades around corners or rockets around corners, and because the game was, at its core, a horror game, a lot of the maps used lighting as a massive part of the game's general map design. There were parts that were purposefully really dark. They'd encourage you to try and use a torch if you could, or give players more areas to try and hide. And damage output as high as it was, hiding was a pretty common strategy on a certain map.
Sounds like there were definitely a lot of ways to be able to psych out your opponent by hiding in a place that was heavy with shadows.
There were loads of death traps too. Like there were loads of ways that map could just kill you. Like, there were so many maps where they just had these like instant kills. These rooms you could like shut people in. It was kind of revisiting it now recently, looking up the old VODs was something that I found really, really intriguing. But yeah, Doom 3, man, it's personally on a personal note, it was more of like my modern console generation. I know Doom 3 was a very, very intensive game. Like you needed a really, really good PC to run it because at the time it was like the peak of graphical achievement. I
so
remember still when it released on PC and original Xbox, there were very few games that were able to kind of match just how impressive it looked. But I think with it came the demand for a really strong PC just to be able to run it.
Well, I have to say, I actually have a pretty interesting story regarding this. I think when I was young, I got 2 games.
And await further.
My computer was actually a bit of a potato. So, I'd gotten like a pretty nifty NVIDIA card, and I really wanted to play the Unreal Tournament that had come out. I forget whether it was 2003 or 2004, but, I got that in Doom 3. So I went to go install Unreal Tournament, and it just wouldn't run. I was like, oh, man. Well, hey, I got Doom 3. Let me try that out. I loaded that sucker up, installed it. It ran fine. Kept me entertained.
It's almost like it was meant to be. It's almost like it was meant to be. So I've just been told we should, fingers crossed, have our audio issues fixed. So thanks very much for sticking with us. Or are you still encountering it?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. I thought we did. I was informed. But as live events go sometimes, it just be like that. So we're going to have to make sure we're sticking around a little bit longer while we fix it. Just for reference, the audio issues supposedly are not resolved. So if anyone's able to kind of help out BloodThunder, would appreciate it. But because I've always said to you guys, the important thing about this marathon, on top of the fact that you guys have given us your time and expertise, this show is not possible without you, but making sure that you're comfortable and the game runs the way you're familiar with it running. Ultimately, your guys' runs make the content what it is.
Definitely, because when we were doing setup yesterday, Doom 64's lighting system is very picky, so it takes very, very specific brightness setting. So we had it looking good at first, and then the moment I went to pick up an invincibility sphere during testing, my entire screen was just a giant white sea that you couldn't see anything out of.
Yeah, I
you could only
remember
see the
looking
HUD,
over.
and that was it.
All right, cool. So, Thunder, are you okay now, or are you still encountering your troubles?
I think they restored it, so I think we're good.
Okay, cool.
Reload?
That sounded okay to me. So
Yep.
the plan was to continue it from where you last picked up off, so where you were before.
All right,
You ready to resume?
we're good.
All right, so let's resume. Thank you very much, guys. Apologies for that, but we should be back in business now. We'll see you.
Here we go. So we're continuing back from where we just were. We're going to see our friend get drug away there. Unfortunately, we can't save him. They're already kind of gone. And now we have to go all the way back to where we started, but we're going to pick up some weapons along the way. One of our favorites. Little bit of lag there.
There we go.
Yeah, just a
You
little
didn't
bit.
see nothing.
It's part of the game. So there's actually a trick there. We got the bridge to stay down because we went so fast early on that we got to the part where you usually hit a trigger to spawn the bridge going back up, but because it wasn't all the way down when we got there, it wouldn't go back up. So now we have the shotgun, which is a weapon you'll see for a lot of the run. It's a little inconsistent. Sometimes just one of your bullets or one of your pellets will hit and you won't kill it, whatever you're shooting. And sometimes you can one-shot a Revenant, which usually takes a lot of damage. Once again, just running back and trying to maintain some of our stamina as we do so. I'm just gonna run by that guy. Get up a little early.
You know, I remember when I was a kid, a lot of these instances of imps crawling out of the stairs and whatnot, they were a bit of a jump scare.
Oh, that first cutscene that you see of the imp coming out of the pipes, that terrified me as a kid. And it's in the darkness too, with the lighting perfect. So you
That's
see
the
a
big
lot.
thing about Doom 3, right? Lighting plays such a big part of it. Normally, the torch was almost mandatory for some of these maps, but okay, a little bit of a brightness adjustment, whack it all the way up, and the need for the torch doesn't become as prominent.
Yeah, as you'll notice, we never bring out the flashlight. We never turn it on. We just turn up the brightness, and we're generally good for the most part. There's a couple of dark areas, but we can get through them. There's also a lot of knockback from enemies when they hit you, or when they shoot you. So sometimes I'll crouch if I get real close to them to kind of avoid that happening. Just get right in their face. There's also a lot of times I'll shoot at an enemy like that in a hallway, and I don't really need him dead for any reason. He's just kind of in the way. So if I can one-shot him, it just helps to get past. So we're going to start a conversation up here, and because we have to wait for it to be over, we're just going to go ahead and put in a door code here and get some supplies.
Yeah, you're really meant to kind of go pick up PDAs along the way, kind of fish through them for information or any kind of combination codes, and that plays a lot of casual playthrough. But the code stays set on the same locks from game to game, so as long as you have it memorized, you can just get it and go.
That was one of the things that I also appreciated about Doom 3 was how the story was driven through those audio PDAs and the texts that you could find within them.
Yeah, I know one of my personal favorites is when you finally go into hell and you find some of those audio logs of one of the researchers. He's lost track of the rest of his team and he's kind of gradually, bit by bit, finding out what happened. Very creepy as a kid, and I've got to say, shout out, it's really well voice acted too. It really kind of made the experience for me.
So you'll notice stuff like barrels and panels falling. A lot of times that's not a big deal, but there are certain instances where that can just kill you. As I mentioned before, if Doom 3 wants you dead, it will just kill you. And if that happens like in that spot, that won't usually kill you. We don't have saves other than going into the map. So you'd have to go from the very beginning, which sometimes can be a very, very long trek back. There are auto saves in the game, but we turn them off usually because we just don't need them, and they cost about 2 seconds per save. There's another panel falling. We're coming up on everyone's favorite demon, the Pinky.
Oh, it's that thing from the movie.
He gets a nice little introduction.
Yeah, this is one of those horror elements that just really, really leaves an impression.
So he sets us free, and then we just run away. But there's another one. You'll also notice I sometimes will crouch in midair. If there's like a pipe that's hanging down that would normally block me from jumping, I'll try to crouch under it after I jump.
Now, I noticed there that one of the imps threw a fireball at another imp. Is there sort of self-demon damage like there was in previous games? Can they damage each other?
I don't believe so. At one point I knew that information. As you guys just mentioned before, I actually run a ton of different games, so some of the technical details I get lost on here and there. A lot of the lore goes out the window. I try to remember the best I can, but yeah.
I will say I don't think that there is any infighting in this version of Doom.
There's actually a pretty cool trick. It's often a little difficult coming up here as well. So we're going to try to bypass a room. So I'm going to save in case I mess it up. We're going to hopefully jump off this railing. So I actually got the trick, but the demon already moved. So we're trying to either get boosted over to the next railing or land on top of the demon's head, like that.
There we go. Nice.
A little better. And then we don't want to get hit by this laser. We're just going to crouch under it. And that's called a slope boost, which you'll see a couple times over. Very, very useful. So we're going to pick up some health because we're actually going to skip turning off the fire up here. We're just going to take the damage.
It's pretty amazing that the fire doesn't just outright kill you. I guess they thought they would have done enough damage to not be able to skip the puzzle, but you can just slide through on this difficulty.
Yeah, and it's important to note we're doing this on the easiest difficulty for many reasons. One, because it's the fastest. You're just going to get through it much faster if you don't have to go and get supplies all the time. I'm going to save because this guy's a jerk. All right.
He loves giving you those boosts lately.
He gives you boost, but sometimes he can boost you over the railing and then you just die. So it's better just to be safe.
Now that two-headed demon, I believe, is a demon that's new to Doom 3, and I believe its name is the Maggot.
I believe you're right. So we had a little cutscene here. We're going to try to skip some of these enemies that we can set up. Grenade jump here.
He's actually going to grab a PDA that's right above him that you normally have to walk all the way around to get.
Close.
It's pretty precise because grenades don't really give you like a huge boost like they would in, say, Quake.
There we go.
There, nice.
That's probably the hardest grenade jump that you have to do. I'm also going to save here because there's a pretty cool trick that you can do. Get a BFG early. You're not supposed to get it here, but if you're fast enough and you shoot Swan's assistant, you can get the BFG off his body, so we'll be using that later.
I think you mentioned before how a lot of the maps are quite similar to each other, and how you move and how you navigate. That's a pretty common thing in Doom 3, isn't it? Just like, there's a lot of like close quarters movement that's required.
Yeah, there's a lot of the maps are set in the UAC, whether it's the Alpha Sector or the Delta Sector. So you go through them all together in like one big group, whereas kind of like the newer games, they're more spread out. You kind of traverse like the Hell and back, and you do go to Hell, and there's some variation there. But a lot of designs are like a lot of the same assets, look very similar, but they're just done in a different way. So you just really have to know your way around the map and not get lost. One kind of annoying thing that I haven't talked about is when the enemies are spawning in, before their animation is complete, they're still like this. His collision's still there, so they'll get in your way and you have to jump around them, even if you can't see them yet. Playing's a little safe. So up here we're going to do some jumps to skip walking around. This isn't usually a tricky jump, but just to be a little safe, we'll save. There we go.
I remember initially playing this entire section was pitch black. You had to find the guy who had the light and follow him through.
Yeah, you're supposed to be basically escorted through the whole area. But of course we don't have to do that.
Okay, BT
nice.
can escort himself.
Yeah. I'm old enough. There is one more tricky jump that we have to get through here. It's usually not too bad, but lately it's been giving me trouble, so we need to jump on top of this health. Get out of your spider. Up and over. There we go. One more spider for the road, and we're out of it. So this is one of the best parts, if not the best part of the entire run. Anytime I do a stream of it, this is what people come to watch. Playing some crane game.
This is what you were waiting for. This is the content you tuned in.
So one thing people always ask is why don't you just use the transfer item to incinerator for this barrel? If you hit that button, it'll take it over for you, but it'll also move the crane back to where it was when you hit the button. So we'd have to wait for it to go all the way to the incinerator and back to the position of the first barrel before we can control it again. And that's a little slow, so we'll do it for the second barrel, but we want to manually control the first.
This is hype.
Gas levels decreased 50%.
We always know how rigged these crane games are, so make sure we get our prize.
Should have brought your portable Super Turbo Turkey Puncher 3 to play during this.
As this is transferring, we can go out here and just take care of some more enemies. Why not?
Wow, he was not ready for that.
Yeah, when enemies are jumping at you, they can be very hard to hit and definitely one shot. So it's pretty lucky if that happens. Gonna get our key and we can keep going on. So you're gonna start noticing a lot more spiders throughout the map. Here, they're not too bad, but because they're at your feet a lot of times, like the maggots are, they can definitely trip you up if you're not watching out, if you're trying to strafe jump through an area. It's also worth mentioning that we have to reload in this Doom. It's a little weird, but it's not too bad. These demons also spawn in a very set manner, so we just look at where they're going to spawn and shoot them as soon as they do.
I remember the amount of times in this game the evil scientist decides that he's gonna send a demon to kill you, he has an evil laugh, and he sends one in a set location every time. It's like, bro, I don't know how bad you think I am at this game, but...
You'd figure after about the 5th or 6th time, he'd start crying.
Yes, because the same laugh. It's like, ha 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 ha! Before you can finish laughing, the im's dead, you've already gone through the door.
You gotta respect the man for his enthusiasm.
Budget cuts in the AC. You can only send so much, even through hell.
So we're going to open the chamber so that we can just go through without having to wait. And Alpha Lab Sector 4 is kind of a tricky one to go fast in because we're going to have to jump on some very small platforms. And, hope not to fall through.
Now that section about 15 seconds ago where you pressed a button, there's actually 2 buttons that you can press. The larger of the 2 will kill that poor scientist.
So we're going to come back here to grab some supplies, mainly adrenaline. And adrenaline's very useful because it allows us to have unlimited stamina for a set amount of time. So we don't have to worry about maintaining it. And, for this level, it's very, very useful. So if I go fast enough, those platforms haven't fully come in yet, and you just jump across. You may see here if I don't get punched back enough.
So you mentioned the inconsistency with the shotgun earlier on. Is that just like a damage inconsistency with it?
Yeah, it's based on how many of the pellets from the shotgun itself actually hit. So if you hit all of them, you can basically one-shot like anything up to a Revenant. But then if only like 1 pellet hits, then it'll take 2 shots to kill most things. So we're coming up on the first boss, and that's why we went ahead and got the BFG early. It really helps out here, especially if we can get a headshot.
Here's Vagary the Spider.
Oh, right over. So I have more BFG ammo, but we want to save 2 of it for some maps later on, so we're just gonna hopefully finish off with the shotgun there.
Kind of unfortunate how right as you shot the BFG shot, kind of crouched down right as it was about to connect.
So a little bit lore here. You were going through the Alpha Labs to meet up with a Bravo team, I believe. And by the time you get there, the cutscene plays and the whole Bravo team is slaughtered. So we're going to slide past their remains in just a bit.
So here the fire doesn't do nearly the same damage as the one before, and it's not even a worry. You don't have to think about health or anything. And this is really where Lost Souls start coming into play, which are just absolutely awful. One of my least favorite demons. They're really spooky in this game.
It's not even like a skull, it's just a human head on fire. Yeah. One of the more memorable demons in this game, I think, for a lot of us that played it.
So back there was one of the spots where a panel can drop down and just kill you, so I stayed close to the railing to avoid doing that. So we have to come back through this area. That's why we save BFG, so there's a lot of demons that just spawned. Instead of just taking care of them there, using the shotgun or something, we come up and just blast them with the BFG. But we got a nice little elevator ride. Pretty cozy. Gives us a nice break in the run.
I imagine the breaks of Doom 3 are quite rare.
Yeah, I mean, there's some small ones here and there, but you have this and the monorail basically to break it up. Other than that, you're basically going full speed the entire time. It's nice to have a moment just to think. So right there's a good instance of where I probably should have one-shot that imp, but because we got unlucky, we had to two-shot him.
I imagine sometimes that put you in a little bit of hot water when you kind of need to kill a demon then and there.
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially when you're about to have to reload, if you're on like 2 shots or 1 shot and you miss, and then you have to wait for the whole reload animation to go through, and the enemies are punching you and putting you in a corner. It can definitely slow you down. But yeah, we might run into that later on. Inkies are notoriously bad for that. Coming back up, fire a shot. And then there's a small skip we can do here that doesn't look like a skip. If you go far enough into this room, there's a trigger to spawn 2 more enemies, but if you just walk around the outside like that, you can go through the door without having to fight them. So.
Kind of uncanny to me how the sound effect of a lost soul that's been killed sounds kind of similar to the mother demon in Doom 64.
A little bit, yeah. I hadn't really thought of it before. There's also a lot of these barrels, which could kill you if demons want to shoot them, but luckily we made it through. One more cutscene for this level.
Now, these areas outside are really some of the areas that I think are some of the more memorable ones, where you have limited oxygen. We are on Mars, after all.
Yeah, that never really factors into the run because we're in and out of those areas so quickly that oxygen never becomes something to worry about. But it's definitely casually playing something you remember. Spooky skeleton here. We're going back outside real quick. Got some more spiders to deal with. So coming up here, we're going to be getting one of just the best weapons ever, which is really nice for this run as well, as you'll find out. There we go. There it is. Give me that.
Chainsaws on Mars. What's up with that?
There's actually some good lore about if you go in and read why there's actually a chainsaw on Mars. I don't remember the exact details, so I don't want to.
It's something like they were supposed to get some different kinds of parts, and the company accidentally sent a bunch of chainsaws instead. And the staff are just like, we don't know what we're gonna do with these, so they just keep them locked up.
So the beautiful thing is that's the case on the surface, but it was actually a Martian Buddy weapon locker. And the Martian Buddy PDAs were actually spam emails that were injected by a hacker that was in on what was going on, what was being performed by Dr. Petruger. So they were intentionally sent.
So I'm trying to do another slope boost here, but we need to gain a lot of height off of this one. And unfortunately, the Cacodemons can be a bit of annoyance when trying to do this. Also, just do it from the rail. Oh. There we go.
Nice.
Very nice.
The trick's not over yet. We have to do another jump. That's why I saved up here. Be very safe. Oh.
You know, going back to the Martian Buddy thing, one of the beautiful things about those cabinets is I believe they take like a 4-digit or 5-digit code. Back in the day, there was actually a website that if you paid attention to the PDAs, if you went to that website on your browser, it would give you the code to open them.
That's some deepest lore right there.
Is that website actually still there? I know it was a few years back. I don't know if it's still up.
I think it redirects you now. I'm not sure to what, but we're going to do another kind of slope boost to get across. So coming up is our instance of Berserk. So we actually don't use our fists. We're just going to use the plasma rifle to take care of all these enemies. But a really cool thing about Berserk in this game is it speeds you up quite a bit.
The screams are so good when you have Berserk on.
Yeah, so you're the whole time. So if we go fast enough, we can actually use this outside to kind of traverse a little faster. It's a little hard to control, but got there. Actually kept it all the way to the end.
I always remember one of the levels I remember the most here is you've got that chainsaw demon and it's on the dimly lit hallway. It kind of keeps repositioning.
So there's actually 2 Cacodemons that can spawn here. One sometimes just won't come up to fight, but there's also a trigger right about there that if you cross it, it'll spawn in. If you press the button from far enough away, you can call the elevator down. You just not have to worry about the Cacodemon at all. It's just another map that stamina could be kind of a pain to manage. But it shouldn't be too bad. It's also the only real instance of seeing enemies with shields that you can just chainsaw right through.
Well, a lot of good that was.
It's always nice to me going back to Doom 3 where even now there are very few games I feel that have really nailed the satisfaction of like a general chainsaw weapon. And obviously the chainsaw has seen quite a significant kind of evolution in the modern Doom games where they kind of serve as a somewhat instant glory kill to replenish resources, but Doom 3, there was just something so satisfying about it for its time.
And the fact that it doesn't have any ammo and you don't have to worry about it, you can just use it as much as you want, it is so great. Gets you out of a lot of sticky situations.
Seems to be much faster, right? You know, where you normally need to hit a shotgun blast and you kind of risk it being inconsistent and leaving them alive, and the chainsaw kind of just deals with it all the time anyway.
And also because everything's essentially close quarters, having the chainsaw really helps out. So this is our friend Jerry. He's going to help us get through the map, unlock a couple doors for us. Our goal here is basically to keep the enemies from seeing Jerry, because he will start shooting at them and stop walking. So if we can kill them off before he starts fighting with them, we'll just keep on walking.
So I'm curious, where does the name Jerry come from?
It's just his name.
I dig it.
You'd have to ask Jerry.
I'll never get bored of watching the imps fly into the moon every time you shoot them after spawning.
So here's an instance of us not spawning in a demon until Jerry's passed, so that he won't have to turn back for him. And then this is the last door that we need Jerry to open for us, so we just have to wait. Oh.
Just had to inspect the dead dude first.
He's very curious about what's going on. So sometimes the Cacodemon will try to make its way over here. I don't think it's going to happen today, but... Oh! Guess he just wanted to die.
He just wanted to get some stream time.
Clean. Computer system shows Swan and Campbell are still in the area. Watch
It's
out.
another wonderful elevator ride going up. They always say the best speedruns have the most elevators, so the more elevators, the better the run.
That was, for me, actually, what actually used to interest me about Doom 3 was the elevators were pretty much the most common way to ascend. You know, even in the multiplayer, it was a common occurrence where there wasn't really many ladders. It was kind of just ramps and elevators.
So the UAC actually invented very flat wheels, which is very impressive with probably how heavy this is. I think they'd just break in half. So you actually get an option here whether you want to transmit or cancel. Really, that doesn't mean a whole lot, but canceling saves like 4 to 5 seconds on the next map. So there we go with that. And with all these panels and like the way you transition in and out of levels, it really bridges the gap between the classic Dooms and Doom 16. Because there's a lot of panels much like this. They're a little easier to hit. You don't have to be as precise on what you want to click on, but you can see a lot of the same design elements in terms of the UAC facility and just map design in general in 16. Call our last elevator for this map up. You'll often see me clicking on the call button a couple times just to make sure that I actually pressed it, because sometimes it'll look and sound like you did, but sometimes the command doesn't actually go through.
So I guess while we're in the elevator and waiting, do you have a specific favorite part of this game?
Definitely anytime you're in the hell maps, just the design I think is really cool. You don't get to see a whole lot of it in this game, so when you do it, it's special. And you also have infinite stamina, so it's less pressure to maintain that as you go.
Is the infinite stamina a cause of the adrenaline that you use, or is it?
It's just part of the nature of the maps itself.
Just story-based, being in hell.
Nice.
It gives you the rage to go fast, I guess.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I played the single player for Doom 3, so these little details are going down memory lane, if anything.
We're gonna have a surprise Pinky come around this corner. It's very, very aggressive. This is also going to be the introduction to a Revenant in the next room. And while we can potentially get one-shots with the shotgun on Revenants, a lot of times I'll just use the chainsaw instead. It's a much more consistent way of killing them. So this is the one cutscene that we can't really skip. We can hit this call button through the imp. Come back for stamina while the elevator's coming up and then deal with them finally.
Can't see the guy here.
So this next part's kind of tricky to go through because we're going to just run past the Pinkies, but they don't like that so much. They want their screen time too. Let's see how it goes. Oh. That wasn't too bad. Okay.
Yeah, those two in particular can just clobber you in the corner for 10, 15 seconds. It's really difficult to get out even if you have a chainsaw on it.
Yeah, if it hit you the right way, you can just put you in a corner, and it's very hard to get out of. So there's a little slow boost to cut out some walking arounds. Nice little skip there. I'm gonna save because this drop can sometimes just send you flying off the pipe. Ooh, that was very close. don't want to have to make our way back up. I don't think the fall itself would kill you, but it's just a time loss thing. At this point, our adrenaline's out, so it goes back to maintaining stamina. There's quite a bit of the map left. Go through.
But even now, you can see just how close quarters he is.
One of the worst hallways in the room. If you're not a fan of spiders, you don't want to play this part. So right here, we're going to grab the rocket launcher, which is just invaluable to the speedrun itself. Along with grenades, you can also use the rocket to boost, and you can actually combine the two. Throw down a grenade and then time it so you shoot the rocket and basically get boosted twice, which you can do right there, but this is a little bit safer. Unfortunately, I have two Revenants shooting at me
wow.
here. And if they just want to shoot rockets at you, you're not going to get up there. Not too bad. Want to make sure we get in here before oxygen runs out. We're safe.
So just out of curiosity, what does happen when oxygen runs out? Is it just instant death?
Yeah, you just die. Nobody wants.
One of the more difficult parts of the game when you're a younger age and playing the game when it was originally out was managing the oxygen just gives you extra stress. There's more stuff to worry about.
Oh yeah, and we also just did a trick there, so we can back out of the room, and your cursor stays on the panel longer than it probably should when you're backing away from it. So as you have the momentum to walk out of the room, you can just activate the door to close. Let's go ahead and climb up here. There we go. So we have to wait for this door to open anyways, but we don't have to go through the trouble of doing that jump after the door gets unlocked. That was kind of so everything's reloaded, ready to go.
The Trigger's lines are so good in this game.
Yeah. His voice actor did an amazing job. I think he really nailed it in the creepiness factor.
Interesting. Pass that Revenant? Okay. This map can definitely be a little rough to get through at times. But so far, so good. So a lot of times, even if we don't really need health, like I was at 97% out of 100, I'll still go ahead and hit the med kit on the wall just because. Why not? Or if we're low, you'll click it a couple times, but you may not go all the way to 100, just enough to kind of bypass the next part. So here we have the cherubs, which are kind of like the spiders. They're on the floor, just in your way, but way, way worse. Way harder to hit. Yeah, just a general nuisance.
Yeah, they're really creepy too. Half fly, half infant.
Nothing scarier than an infant.
Especially when they sound like that.
So here we have kind of a cool fight with an incubus, but fortunately for us, we have the rocket launcher, so just gonna rocket jump past it.
Yeah, this big moment. Like, dude, where are you going?
We'll fight them later. Don't you worry. So it's kind of hard to tell there, but you actually kind of circle back to where you went into that area. There's a lot of times where you just circle back to either the beginning or you travel through the same levels that got you from A to B and then you go back to B to A maps. So this is the monorail. You can get in front of it and outside of it, but you have to wait for the monorail to actually travel for the doors to open. So you could like strafe jump all the way through here, but you're still waiting on the monorail, so we'll just take it easy. There's this guy. We don't really care what he has to say.
The big question is, does he die?
That's a good question. I don't remember if lore-wise he dies. We don't kill him.
I was about to say, can you do something about that?
So we actually, no weapons.
Oh.
There's a danger.
Side too. I bet they're somehow connected with those things.
You know, I naively thought you meant, could we do something to save him?
Oh, definitely not.
Well,
Never.
I take that back. I think he does die because they only mentioned finding one Marine, and you are the Marine they find, so I'm assuming, yeah, he did in fact die at some point.
Rest in peace.
He might die in the crash into this. So we're coming up on our first little stop. We're going to go in here and unlock the rest of the monorail. So one kind of annoying thing here is when you open that door, it'll reset your gun back to the shotgun, even if you already have something else out. We like to pull out the rocket launcher for this part. So you have to kind of wait for the game to pull out the shotgun, and then you can pull out your weapon. So if you're trying to go fast, you kind of have to take a small break there. And we're off. So yeah, he's gone now. He's somewhere. Maybe he got off Mars.
I imagine the spiders didn't get on. Those are no guns dying. Not allowed.
I don't know, they look rather well fed.
So we're going to skip this cutscene, but not until it starts to fade in. An interesting thing about the skipping cutscenes, if you play at 60 FPS, which was the cap for the original game, you can skip them right away, but if you play at 120, which is the cap for the BFG edition, you have to wait like an extra half of a second. Skip it. So this is kind of the first instance of using both the grenade and the rocket to boost up.
How tight is the timing to make sure you get them together?
It's pretty specific, but it's not too bad at the same time. Once you kind of learn it and get muscle memory. You also have to catch a very small ledge up here on the rail. Try it one more time. If not, we'll just run up the other way. Oh,
Oh, that was close.
yeah, we'll just run up the other way. There's plenty more of those jumps to come, so. Fortunately, it's actually not that big of a skip, which we'll find out. So it is cool to do, and you definitely want to do it in runs if you're going for a good time, but for what we're doing here, don't necessarily need it. So it would have gotten us up here to this rail, so you can kind of see. Cool stuff we do doesn't always save tons and tons of time. We're going to save because this part could be a little dangerous. There's a turret that we could disable by grabbing a PDA, but we hope that the turret starts attacking something else, or if it attacks us that we have enough health to get through to the exit. So now we're in Delta Labs, things kind of become more relaxed for a little bit. It's another map that maintaining stamina is very important, and we do have adrenaline for a good chunk of it, but at least in the beginning here.
Systems down.
Always keep that in mind.
You know, I remember when I was a kid, these periods of silence where there were no demons, they freaked me out the most because I knew they were coming. I just didn't know when.
Yeah, it's the quiet before the storm, for sure. Like, you know there's demons, you know they're going to show up at some point, but the longer the silent is, the more anxious you get.
I think sometimes it's even worse if there's loads of health and armor pickup. You just ask the eternal question of, why is the game giving me all this stuff?
Yeah, what?
And when is it gonna happen?
Why do I need these things? What are you trying to tell me?
I think he was just very generous and just opened his mouth so you can stick a chainsaw inside it.
You just want to taste it a little bit, you know?
That's probably,
Last meal.
probably a little late for a dental appointment. Needed a quick shot.
So we just grabbed some supplies and start the cutscene. And we also grabbed adrenaline right there before we jumped in. But we do have to come back through this way. So that's why we kept one extra shot of the BFG, kind of clear out things on our return.
I have to say, the designs for the Kako demons are really frightening.
We're so used to seeing the Cacrodemons almost like, not even sounds a bit strange, but the Cacrodemons always looked a little bit friendly compared to the other demons. Just has this giant smile, and it's like, man, he's just so happy to see you. But in this game, it's
Some kind of Lovecraftian nightmare.
just much more visceral. I guess that's always been the visual direction of Doom 3, is that it has been horror first and foremost. So everything kind of needs to look as grotesque as possible.
So this is a map where you kind of want to go back to where you started, but you don't go the way we're going. So we rocket jump back up there. This is why we took that elevator down instead of just jumping, so we can reverse back. And this is a slightly faster way. Get back to the beginning. So we're just gonna leave the Revenant alive, and then there should be a whole bunch of enemies through this door, which we're just gonna wipe out. Not too bad. There's usually actually a lot more. I guess they're just kind of spread out today.
There we go, the return journey. And we saw there with the sort of like commander zombie almost, where a couple of maps ago he died to 2 shots, this time took 3.
Right, exactly. And this is one of the shorter maps. There's actually a really cool trick at the end. One of the more recent tricks discovered, I believe. It's one of those ones where if you blink, you'll miss it. Wondering, how did I end the level? It's actually really scary seeing that imp get close to the elevator, because he can kind of wedge himself into the door as it's closing, and will never close, and you're stuck inside the elevator and you can't kill him. So you usually come over here and you get a mission, and then you come back. But because there's an end level trigger up in this corner, we can just do a rocket jump, and that's
Wow. Makes life a lot easier.
I always mistakenly try to skip the intro to this part because it feels like a cutscene, because you're kind of stuck there and you can't move around. You can look, but you can't skip it. You just have to wait. It's also another very short level, thanks to rocket jumping and grenade jumping.
Chainsaw cuts through those as well. These were some of the scarier enemies I remember playing this game many, many years ago, where they just did so much damage to you.
And also, crouching for them, usually they'll just shoot over you, so you don't take any damage. You can't actually hit me up here. It's nice. Try this again.
I have to say, as a teen, I drastically underestimated the effectiveness of the chainsaw in this game. It's crazy watching just how you melt these enemies.
You so normally associate melee with bad, but not in this case.
So this is kind of optional stuff that you can pick up. For us, it's very much needed. There's a whole bunch of rockets. You get the BFG. There's an arch trial there that would skip. Arch trials are a little scary, but usually you can kill them pretty quick. The one reason we pick up a lot of rockets is for this stage. We can just rocket everything. Really not have to worry about them at all.
I imagine the self-damage on this difficulty isn't very severe either.
Right, and that's one of the reasons we run on easy, because we do so many rocket jumps that if we played on a harder difficulty, it would just kill us most of the time, and it wouldn't be a viable strat. Rocket jump up here, and then we're going to do another grenade rocket jump up top. But rolled away. Very close.
Looks like a very tight timing to get like that max height.
Even just getting the grenade to cooperate looks a little finicky.
Yeah, I'm throwing it straight down each time, but it just counterbalances the way it wants.
There we go.
There we go.
So yeah, once you rocket up, jump up there, you've taken damage, and there's 2 more of those soldiers that really just want to kill you. It's a little difficult to get past them without dying, but let's run past them. But there's also another pretty hard trick at the very end of this stage. It'll be a pain. Hopefully it's not too bad. So there's actually like a lot of teleporting in this area. You're supposed to just like travel around and then.
Pad 2 selected.
Like go back and forth, but we're gonna skip the next teleporter by taking a kind of clever jump. We're gonna jump off this railing, hopefully. You have to get enough speed to go the distance, but you also have to crouch so that you don't hit your head on the pipe. You don't want to miss entirely. It's ever so close.
I imagine there's quite a fine line with this one.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, nicely done.
Really, it's amazing that that jump even works. 'Cause it's just so ridiculously precise.
So I mean, how long over the course of running the game would these kind of like very specific jumps exist? Like were some of these found quite early on, or were they found a bit later?
So I'm pretty new to running Doom 3. I only started running it about a year ago, and there's plenty of other runners like Corpse Flesh, who's the world record holder at the moment. There's quite a history like going years back, so I'm not exactly sure when things were found and in what order. Most of it has been known for quite a while, because I think the 90% route like tutorial at the moment is like 3 years old and has 90% of what I'm doing now.
And I assume we're loading now into Hell period.
Good old hell. So yeah, here we have stamina, but it's also taken our weapons away, so we get them back. We're gonna go meet our friend Edwin. We've seen him a couple times, but I haven't really pointed him out because this is his showcase. So here's our friend Edwin, our little Martian buddy. Give him a couple fist bumps. He pops up all over the place. He's so happy to see us every time. Yeah, we're just waiting for the dialogue to go through and then kind of an elevator ride to happen. But,
These are by far my favorite levels within Doom 3. This entire experience was crafted in a very well-mannered.
I feel like it's a very common opinion to have, is that when you think of Doom 3 and the parts of single player you like the most, these are always the bits that pop up.
They're just so different from all of like the UAC-based stuff and design and aesthetic. It really just stands out.
It's a complete change of pace too. Just this idea that you're somewhere that you, and at the time too, you'd rarely seen anything like this in a game, period. Ooh.
so right there, if you jump at like the very edge with enough speed, you actually get over a small gap, which usually loads in. Also, who's that Pokemon? It's Pikachu. Don't you know?
God damn it.
That is the most angry Pikachu I've ever seen in my life.
But yeah, we jumped over a small gap that usually loads in. Luckily, that's like the collision for it's all still there.
And now this hell portion is where you do find some of the more interesting little PDAs.
So I'm gonna save here because there's a chance the Lost Souls will try to hit me and just knock me off into the void. I really don't want that to happen. There's a lot of safety saving in hell. So one of my favorite parts of Hell is coming up here. We go down and we get the Berserk power up, and we can just punch Hell Knights. It's so much fun. Also, hey, Edwin's back. So there's actually like a lot of imps that spawn in down here, but you only need to kill certain ones to kind of progress. So we're gonna pick up Berserk and then kill off the imps.
I just love the idea of one-shotting a Hell Knight in the face with your fist.
For me, it's the sound effect. It's the thunk.
So usually when you come in here, you wait for that to drop down, but you can just do a strafe jump to the side and keep running through.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah, there's a lot of lost souls that will just randomly spawn in here. Well, not randomly, but they're set, but they will definitely try to knock you off course if they can. We're gonna try to squeeze by. All right, not too bad. A little secret BFG back here. So you usually just try to get that Hell Knight down with 2 shots from the BFG so you can use 4 shots up here on the Incubus, but because we need 4 for the boss as well, we can only use 3. We'll use 2, and then 1 plus some rockets. There we go. The only thing we really have left to do in Hell is fight the boss and get the Soul Cube.
Soul Cube is what we kind of reach almost like the next act of the game, right?
Yes. Kind of unlocks a lot more to the lore. I'm gonna save there just in case this happens to glitch out. I've never seen it happen to anyone else, or never heard about it, but in practice leading up to this, his health just like went into the floor and you couldn't kill him, but he died first try, so there we go. Got the Soul Cube.
You know us as the Soul Cube. Free us
Really hoping
from
they
our
bring this back for
terrors,
Eternal.
and we will help
It just completely changes up the whole pace, doesn't it?
enemies.
Yeah, it's very different from all the other weapons because it has a cooldown based on enemy kills. So if you use it, then you have to kill so many enemies to get it back. And it's just a little bit different. I always like mechanics that are a little different than the norm. So now we have the Soul Cube, we can teleport back out. And it also takes away all of our weapons once again, besides the Soul Cube. So we have to go through the process of picking them all up, making our way through. Luckily, we get most of them back pretty quick. I believe this is kind of when you learn who the true villain of the game is and what their intentions are. Our chainsaw back, which is very important.
And this was always one of the most memorable maps for me, just because of all the writing on the wall. Very, very visceral map.
So these spiders are actually different. I can't remember what their actual monster name is, but it's the only time you see them is in that hallway. They're not like the other ones that you see throughout the game. I want to say they're like Tic Tacs? Tic Tacs? I may be wrong about that. So we're gonna have our first instance of actually using the Soul Cube, which has a benefit of killing off an enemy and giving us tons of health. So we just use it on the Archvile. We're gonna usually use it on enemies that would take a while to kill, so Archviles or Hell Knights are main ones to go to. So he actually dies for a reason. Some of the other kills that we've done were just for fun, but he actually counts towards the Soul Cube, getting it to come back. So if you don't kill him, you have to kill an extra demon in the next map, which is kind of a pain. And he was going to die anyway, so.
May as well not be in vain. So this is one of my least favorite maps because
things can just go wrong. And things go wrong on this map. It's not a fun time. Hopefully it's kind to me today.
That always seems to happen anytime a map is called central processing in the game. It's always really weird stuff to happen.
Yeah, so we kill extra cherubs there so that we can get the soul cube back in time to kill the archvile.
I feel like we're not going to see a lot of archviles in this run, as in like see them do anything.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I'm gonna save just so when I cross that, hopefully I don't miss. It's a very easy jump. But when I come back, I can miss it as well.
You know, touching on what you said earlier about, you know, the state of the base with the writing on the walls, that area back there where, you know, it's almost like you can see hell creeping into the base, that evolution, I thought, was very well done.
But it also, once more, it kind of reminds me of some of the visual direction that we would see in later Doom. It just came years and years later. I was always a huge fan of those maps that were kind of like caught in the middle of like the portal in between UAC and Hell. It was always like the most visually stunning maps to me.
So this is another case of we're just going back the way we came in. We're just doing it a much quicker way. We jump down a floor and then just go right by the elevator. All right, that wasn't too bad. So we do all that so we can open this door over here. Take another great elevator ride down. It's one of my favorites. Got a good view.
So due to damage, the difficulty that you're playing on right now, is there much sort of risk of death in certain points of the game, or is it more just time that you risk wasting all the time?
Generally just from like the monsters and stuff, there's not a great risk. Usually it's one of the tricks you're doing, whether it involves potentially falling. There's sometimes that we're coming up on that we'll have to drop down, which can kill you. But it's mostly just like the rockets and stuff, which you want to avoid. Almost there.
This is probably the slowest elevator I've ever seen.
Almost.
It's getting slower.
We get a nice view over just how long it's taking.
Almost there.
3 hours later.
A few moments later. Oh my god. Genuinely, oh my god. This was funny and now it's not. Help! Help!
I don't think it normally goes this slow.
Where's the fire rescue
What
button?
have we done? Is this... Oh.
Would you like the Jeopardy music while you wait, sir?
If you're in the UK, it's the countdown
Almost.
theme. Da-da, da-da, da-da-da, boom. Yo, this is still going. Can we find a skip for this?
I would hope so. I don't think it usually takes this long.
I feel like it's getting slower.
It might be.
What's going on? Yo, guys, this ain't scripted, I promise. Has it stopped? No, it hasn't. It's
No,
barely.
it's crawling to a stop.
Is it stuck on a demon? Oh my god. So how's your day been, guys?
Yeah.
How about that speed run?
Quite speedy, if you ask me.
All right, we're gonna make an audible.
Guys.
So this is the downside of not having autosave or something turned on. If something like that happens, which is really, really weird.
Has that ever happened before?
That instance, no. I mean, I've seen elevators get stuck, but they just like won't move at all. I've never seen it just get sort of stuck and slow down.
Is this one of those patented marathon that's never happened before moment?
I mean, if you want to do the official, just saying it's never happened before.
It's never happened before.
There we go.
My word. I swear if it does it again, I'm gonna...
If it happens again, I'm gonna be real sad. This time we'll save before going down. I didn't think I had to save for an elevator, but it's Doom 3.
Expect the unexpected.
Just to be safe. All right.
All right, ride or die, baby.
It's a good start.
Oh man, oh that feels so good to see it go this fast. Now we get to put into perspective just how much of a weight.
That's much better.
Yeah. So we were basically at the end.
Yes.
I think before I reloaded, we were like a couple inches away, but that could have been a couple hours of wait. All right. Back to going fast, hopefully.
You can take your anger out on Sarge coming out.
So it's going to be another instance of seeing Archviles, but you don't really get to see him doing anything.
He tried to slap you once, and I think that's the extent of what we've seen him do so far.
Yeah, they do get a couple spawns off, and I might have to go back for health, but... So I will actually need a little bit of health for some rocket jumps, just to get the Sarge a little quicker.
Security bridge in motion.
So we don't actually need to go to the server bank, but we're going to set up this rail so we can jump off of it into this wall. And this is a case where, depending on how you land on it, I can do different types of damage. That was really close. Okay.
Nice.
So here's Sarge. You may have recognized him from the Doom Eternal keynote yesterday. It's a little familiar. Now he's dead.
R.I.P.
Rest in peace, Sarge.
So that's how we get our BFG back, which is real nice.
He died.
Always have comfort in the BFG. Now there's not too many maps left, but we're going into Site 3.
I mean, this is what always took me as a younger age playing this, was just the idea that there was another weapon that was also dangerous, like the BFG. You know, we were so used to the BFG kind of being like the one power weapon.
Yeah, and there's actually a trick I did at the beginning of the stage to jump over a cutscene trigger. If you just go a little bit outside of the elevator, do a rocket jump and kind of crouch, you get past it.
He got launched.
Houston, we have liftoff.
Yeah, so since we used the Soul Cube on Sarge, we actually don't have it until we kill enough enemies. And there's a Hell Knight coming up that we want to kill, so we...
Just for reference, what is the amount of demons you have to kill to trigger the cube?
I think it's 5, and you get it back after the 5th. So there's actually a demon over here. He's a trickster. He's gonna fool you into thinking he's our friend. It's another case of where we just really want the Soul Cube back so we kill an extra enemy. But we really don't have to. This is nice. Another nice elevator ride. Pretty quick this time.
I get nervous every time I see an elevator now.
Me too, man.
Keeping us on edge here.
I'm gonna have nightmares going back to my room after this. Might have to take the stairs.
I say, will you even make it, mate? That's the question.
So we can kind of just like freely use the BFG here. Because the final boss can only really be damaged just using the Soul Cube. You don't need the BFG, and we get a lot of ammo, so you can kind of just probably get around to using it. Probably didn't need to use it there, but why not? Show it off.
one thing the crew really nailed is just the flesh texture. It is exceptionally disgusting in Doom 3.
Yeah, especially the intestine looking like appendages that are growing.
When you use the teleport, it's like, oh no.
So there's another little monorail that we have to take, but luckily this one's pretty short. Then we just have 2 maps in the boss fight. Caverns 1 has quite a lot of strats to it. Caverns 2 is a little bit more relaxed. It's pretty easy to get through. So if you're doing runs, this is really the last scary one. The boss can still just like stomp on you and kill you in one shot, which can be scary, but usually if you're doing runs, this is like, if you can get through Caverns 1, pretty much set. So I'm actually going to let the Archvile start summoning in monsters here, because we used the Soul Cube at the beginning. And get back right there. And now we have to wait a little bit for the store to open, but there's also adrenaline, so we're going to wait to pick it up, just so we have it further into the map. And we're going to do a really cool strat to get down to where we need to go. And drop down, and you're usually supposed to take a platform. And they try to discourage this by giving you damage, but you can just run down. And if you try to jump, you do take a lot more damage. But if you kind of jump down in a pattern like this, you take way less. You can get down here pretty safely.
Combining the Soul Cube and the BFG just kind of looks a bit unfair, really.
Yeah, and then you add in rocket jumps on top of that, and it's
very clean.
just really clear out these guys. So one really big drop, tug the wall, gotta skate down. Whee! This is a very safe method to get down quick.
How smooth.
So that's really the last hard map, so we just have to kind of strafe jump through here, kill some things, and then we're on to the Cyber Demon. Not too bad.
That's always the thing about the Cyber Demon, right? You play the whole game and you're like, man, I haven't seen a single Cyber Demon. Have they forgot about it? And then, like, right at the end, oh, he's huge.
Yeah, he's a big boy, for sure. One more thing of adrenaline off this table. And these little archways are actually really short, so if you're trying to jump through here, it's very likely that you're going to hit your head. And sometimes enemies spawn in. It just kind of makes it really, really tricky to get through here cleanly. It's not the quickest way to kill it, but that was pretty damn good. So just do this to get the Soul Cube back and not have to worry about him. Like I said before, the Cyber Demon can only really be hurt through the Soul Cube. You have to do it 4 times, I believe. But we do need some rockets to kill off more M's and maggots, so we can get the Soul Cube back.
It's that classic setup as well, where you're going to find equipment along the way, but here we go.
I think we have sort of an elevator ride to go.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's
That's the real last boss right there.
Yeah. A little spooky. So we're not technically in hell yet, so we still have stamina. But once we get into the boss fight itself, we're considered in hell, so we have stamina, which is really nice just to run around and hopefully not get stomped on. So we're going to make a save just in case that happens. All right, that's one use of the soul cube. Yeah, we're just going to jump around this giant portal. Hopefully not get stomped.
Man, that thing is huge.
Yeah, he's really big.
Now, even on this difficulty, you're like, are his rockets a threat?
Only if they push you off the map, which they kind of can do if you're jumping around a lot. But in terms of damage, not really, because the soul cube is going to give you health back every time you use it. So it's like health is never really a worry here. We're actually running faster than the soul cube can travel, so we're having to wait for it to catch up. I guess we'll go this way today.
So when the cyber demon kills demons, does it count towards your soul cube progression?
It doesn't. So if he's close enough to kill them when they spawn in, that means I actually have to run around again. Woo. Oh, very close. So he probably killed one there, unfortunately. There we go. This should be it. There we go.
Ah, nice.
Cyber Demon done and dusted. Oh, I'll always remember the final moment, man. That final moment at the end. But that's that. Doom 3.
No more elevators. I promise.
Thank God for that. Thank goodness. But yeah, I mean, while you're there, any kind of notes you want to give on Doom 3? Any shout-outs during the run?
Huge shout-outs just to the Doom 3 community. A lot of people have helped me, given me tips and stuff. But huge shout-outs to Corpse Flesh, the record holder for this. He's absolutely insane at this, and anything that involves like strafe jumping, old Quake games. Just if you like this kind of movement, just go check him out. He's a great runner.
All right, man. Cheers, man. So, well, we're going to have some highlights for you guys in due time and actually have BloodThunder for a bit of an interview. What do you reckon? Doom 3. Even though it was always seemed to be kind of one of the longer games, because it is a fully fledged campaign, which I guess was a bit different to the sort of like the map-by-map style of the previous ones. When you're optimizing it, it's still pretty fast.
Absolutely. It's an interesting game for sure.
But I mean, even visually, we've just been able to kind of clearly see the, I guess like the segue from old Dooms, even like evolving into what would become 2016, and now there's still so much like visual style that has kind of remained and evolved in the future games. But it's just really cool to see. I saw some of those cool little jumps as well. Been joined by BloodThunder, who's now sitting right next to me, mate. How's it going? It's good. It's nice being able to actually go back and almost take a trip down memory lane, because Doom 3 is one of my most fonder Doom games. Not on the PC side, but when it had the Xbox release, especially the online co-op mode that came with it. So many people I would speak to kind of fondly remembered it. But yeah, is this the bit? Is this the bit, or is this? Oh, they highlighted the fast one.
I think
It's
that's
the
the
fast
fast
one.
one.
Oh, yes. I think I desperately needed to see that one again. But yeah, man, so you've been running this game for a bit, and so forgive the ignorant question, is this, I'm assuming this isn't your first time running it at marathon style, or?
For Doom 3, it is. I've run Doom 2016 at Marathon in the past, but for Doom 3, it's the first time I've been able to showcase it. Didn't quite go the way I wanted with like the elevator and stuff like that, and some of the jumps along the way, but that's just how marathons runs go. Like, you can't always get the perfect run. Something's going to go wrong, and you just have to be happy with it. And just the fact I got to get up here and show it off, hopefully it gets more people involved in Doom 3. Like, if you like this run, just come ask anyone who runs it to help. We can get you set up with the source port and all that stuff and information. That goes for all the Doom games. If you like what you see here, just find us on Twitter, Discord, just chat somewhere, and we can help you out with that for sure.
I mean, it's like speedrunning in general. It always seems like everyone's happy to help everyone, because at the end of the day, everyone kind of has a similar passion.
Right.
And when it comes to Doom, so there's so many people that I've seen to see that Doom players watch the other Dooms, even if they don't play every single one. Like even here, you guys have knowledge on so many of the other games combined.
Yeah.
It's been really nice to see.
Yeah, with more people in the community, everyone like kind of finds their own way to do stuff. So it's like, we may have a set route forever and it may seem perfect, but someone comes along and they just see things in a different way and they can find those new skips that will break the game wide open. And it's just like, the more people we can get involved and really bring the community together, the more likely that stuff is going to happen. So it's just everybody wins, everybody works together. It's a great thing to see.
Well, thank you very much, mate. Well done. Fantastic run, and it was really great to see you take a little bit of a trip down memory lane. But as you would expect we still have some more games to go. So we're going to go for a quick break, set up Doom 2016. Don't go anywhere. Quakecon 2019. We'll be back in a few minutes.